3 a.m. You're awake. You don't know why. No noise woke you, no bad dream. You just woke up. And now you're lying in the dark, thinking about all the things you shouldn't be thinking about, getting increasingly anxious about the fact that you're awake, which makes it harder to sleep, which makes you more anxious. Most people have done this, and most people, when it happens, assume something is wrong with them. Their sleep is broken. They have insomnia. They need to fix this. Here's what none of the sleep advice you've ever received will tell you. What you're experiencing at 3 a.m. may not be a malfunction. It may be the most ancient, most deeply human sleep pattern that exists. And it ran perfectly normally for about 299,900 of our 300,000 years as a species. The electric light bulb broke it in roughly 100 years. Sleep maintenance insomnia, waking in the middle of the night and struggling to return to sleep, affects roughly 30% of adults. It is one of the most common sleep complaints in the world, and also, notably, the form of insomnia most resistant to standard treatment, which is the first clue that something unusual is happening. The conventional medical model treats middle-of-the-night waking as a failure of sleep architecture. The goal? Continuous consolidated sleep for 7 to 9 hours. Anything that interrupts that continuity is a problem. But what if the assumption is wrong? What if consolidated 8-hour sleep is the historical anomaly, and the waking is the ancestral norm? The evidence for this possibility comes from 3 completely independent directions: historical records, laboratory sleep science, and anthropological observation of traditional populations still living without artificial light. All 3 say the same thing. None of them were talking to each other when they found it. Roger Ekirch is a historian at Virginia Tech. He spent 16 years researching the history of night in pre-industrial Europe and America. In the course of that research, he found something nobody in modern sleep medicine had been looking for. Over 500 references in diaries, letters, medical texts, court records, prayer books, to a sleep pattern that had simply disappeared from the modern world. People routinely referred to their first sleep and their second sleep as distinct, normal phases of a single night. The period between them, typically 1 to 3 hours, occurring roughly 4 hours after first falling asleep, was described not as waking, not as insomnia, just as the middle of the night, a normal, expected waking period that everyone had and nobody considered unusual. The language of first sleep and second sleep appears in texts from ancient Rome, medieval Europe, pre-industrial North America consistently, across cultures, across centuries, until it abruptly disappears from the written record in the late 19th century, exactly when artificial lighting became widespread. For thousands of years, waking up in the middle of the night wasn't insomnia. It had a name. They called it first sleep, and when it was over, they went back to bed. Ekirch's research documents not just that the waking period existed, but what people did with it. They tended the fire. They prayed. Many medieval prayer schedules included specific prayers written for the watches of the night. They checked on children. They talked. Spouses would lie quietly and have the kind of conversation that only happens in the dark when the house is still. Not urgent conversation, the low, honest kind. Physicians in the Middle Ages specifically recommended this waking period for reflection and quiet contemplation. The 14th century physician Ortolf von Beierland described first sleep and second sleep as the natural structure of a complete night's rest. He wasn't describing an ideal for sick people. He was describing what everyone did. And writers noted that ideas came in this period. The quiet waking hours between sleep and sleep were considered particularly suited to contemplation because the mind was neither fully asleep nor fully alert. A state between states, valuable precisely because it was different from both. The hour between first and second sleep wasn't dead time to endure. It was the quietest, most private part of the day, and medieval doctors prescribed it. In the early 1990s, Thomas Ware, a psychiatrist at the National Institute of Mental Health, ran a series of studies with a simple premise. He removed artificial light from participants for 14 hours of darkness every night for several weeks. Initially, participants struggled with the transition, but within a few weeks, a consistent pattern emerged, spontaneously, without being asked. Participants began sleeping in two distinct segments, about 4 hours each, with a period of quiet wakefulness of 1 to 3 hours between them. Nobody told them to do this. Nobody suggested it was possible. Their bodies simply returned to it. But here's the detail that changes everything. Ware measured what was happening biologically during that waking period, and he found elevated levels of prolactin. Prolactin is the hormone associated with deep contentment, the calm that settles after intimacy, the relaxed meditative state that is different from both sleep and ordinary wakefulness. Participants reported feeling relaxed, reflective, calm in a way they didn't quite have language for. Not anxious, not distressed, not insomniac. They spent the middle of the night in a state of measured, documented, physiological peace. Because that's what their bodies had always been built to do. The light bulb had been suppressing it. Remove artificial light, and modern humans spontaneously start sleeping the way their ancestors always slept. The pattern wasn't lost, it was suppressed. In 2015, Jerome Siegel at UCLA published a study in Current Biology measuring sleep patterns in 3 traditional societies: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, the Tsimane of Bolivia. None of these groups use artificial lighting. The findings challenged almost everything in modern sleep medicine. These groups slept on average 5.7 to 7.1 hours per night, significantly less than the 8-hour recommendation. They didn't go to sleep at sunset. They went to sleep several hours after sunset when the temperature dropped. They woke up naturally around sunrise when the temperature rose. Temperature, not darkness, not a sleep schedule, not an alarm. Temperature. The human sleep system was tuned to thermal cycles, not light-dark cycles. And artificial heating disrupted that tuning just as thoroughly as artificial lighting. And none of these populations, none of them, reported the anxiety around sleep, the insomnia, the sleep-related health complaints that affect a significant fraction of people in industrialized societies. They slept when it was cold, woke when it was warm, and had almost none of the sleep disorders that define modern life. Here's what makes this personal. The most common form of insomnia in the industrialized world, sleep maintenance insomnia, waking in the middle of the night and lying awake, is clinically indistinguishable from the natural segmented sleep pattern documented by Ekirch and replicated by Ware. The symptoms are identical. The experience is identical. The only difference is context. In a pre-industrial world, waking in the middle of the night was a normal phase of a normal sleep cycle. In a world with artificial light and an 8-hour sleep norm, exactly the same experience is classified as a disorder. It causes anxiety. It is treated with medication. And here's the part that should stay with you. The gold standard non-pharmacological treatment for sleep maintenance insomnia includes a technique called stimulus control. It recommends leaving the bed during the waking period and doing a quiet activity rather than lying anxiously awake, which is exactly what pre-industrial people did between first and second sleep. Modern sleep medicine's most effective treatment for middle-of-the-night insomnia is essentially teaching people to treat their ancestral sleep pattern as a scheduled part of the night rather than a malfunction. The anxiety about the waking may be the actual disorder. The waking itself may be fine. You're back at 3 a.m. Same dark room, same quiet. But now you know what's happening. You are not malfunctioning. You are not broken. You are not different from everyone else. You are doing what humans have always done. For 300,000 years, in every culture, on every continent. Before anyone invented a word for insomnia, the fire is not there anymore, but the hour is. The same quiet, calm, meditative hour that your ancestors used for prayer, for conversation, for whatever thought came in the dark that wouldn't come in the light. What changed isn't the waking. What changed is that a bright screen is now the first thing you reach for when you open your eyes, which floods your brain with light at the exact moment your body is producing the hormones of deep contentment and quiet. The hour was never the problem. The phone was. The hour you spend lying awake in the middle of the night, convinced something is wrong with you, is the same hour your ancestors spent tending the fire, talking softly, and watching the dark. You didn't develop insomnia. You woke up the way humans always woke up. The light bulb just made it inconvenient.